Okay, at this time I'd like to invite our representatives for House to come forward. We have Buckley Merrill, Ray Speakman, Mary Lou Taylor, and Jason Youn. And there's no assigned seats, so just take wherever you like.
Most of the people in this room know me, I think, because I've been around in the Republican Party for the last 33 years, and I've been a PC for 17 years. I've been very actively involved in Tempe Republican Women, serving as president for 3 years, and then I went on and moved up to state offices in the AFRW, where I served as regional director for 2 years and vice president in charge of programs for 2 years. So I've been around and active for many years. Not only have I been active, but I've been active with my husband. We saw some injustices going on in Tempe about 15 years ago, so we started having on a monthly basis Tempe City town halls. Now, we not only had the people in Tempe coming to those town halls, we had speakers from all over the state. We had Jan Brewer, we had Matt Salmon, we had Russell Pierce, we had Janie Thong, we had J.D. Hayward, we had John McCain, even Evan Meekum came to and spoke at our town hall. So we've both been around and very active for many years. We moved here in 1966 from after graduating from college in eastern New Mexico University. We have 3 wonderful daughters and sons-in-law and 8 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. All of our daughters and son-in-laws went to school in Tempe and graduated from ASU. We are a Tempe family, and I'm a candidate for District 26 because I think I can make a difference. Thank you.
My name is Ray Speakman, and I'm a native of Arizona. I was born here in Cottonwood, Arizona in 1955. I have 8 children, 14 grandchildren. All 8 of my children graduated from Mesa High, as I did, and been married to my sweet wife now for about 34 years. Growing up in Mesa, I graduated from Mesa High myself. So, native of the area, but I'm new to the political realm. This is something new for me. I've never been involved in politics before, but I feel a great duty to be here. I've been in leadership positions for about 30 years in the community, but not in politics. And so recently I've had the opportunity to have my schedule freed up, decided to be a precinct committeeman, and then about 2 weeks ago decided to jump into the race for the House of Representatives. And it's a stretching experience, to say the least. But the thing that I guess that I would like to say most at this point is that as I go into this race, the most important thing to me is that I know I don't know everything. I have a lot to learn about the system. But the most important thing is that we live in a time where we've got to be able to turn the power back to the people in all ways. And so as a representative, I won't make any campaign promises, but one I will make. And I mean it sincerely from my heart, is that I will listen to my precinct committeemen. You are the people who will speak. And I know I need to listen, because that is where the power will come to the government, is from the people. And that is where we've got to go back to truly turn the power back to the people. So my campaign promise is I will be to each one of these meetings, each one of the precinct committee meetings, so that I can hear what you have to say, what you want to have heard, and then I will take that back to the office of the state representative and will act upon those. I will be your voice. My name is Ray Speakman, and I will speak for you.
Thank you, Ray. My name is Jason Youn. Like Ray Speakman, I'm also a small business owner. I'm a family man. I'm an Arizona resident. I've lived in the state for 25 years. I went to school here. I went to high school down in South Tempe at Corona del Sol. I went to college at ASU. And I've always been interested in politics and just recently gotten actually involved in politics. And I think that this is a new trend in America. We're a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people, and that's what makes us great. That's what sets us apart. And because this nation is, I think, beginning to move away from that, more people like Ray and myself, we're getting involved because we want to bring it back to what it was always designed to be, which is laid out right here in the U.S. Constitution. I love our Constitution, both the Arizona Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. It's important to remember that we have a right to work. It's not a privilege to work in this state. And our government needs to create an environment where jobs are not only easy to get, but easy to create. We're not always doing that. Some of our taxation policies, like how many of you guys have a business where you have to pay sales tax as part of your business? Anybody? You might notice that Arizona has the absolutely most complex transaction privilege tax law in the nation. And I point out that we call it a transaction privilege tax. This is wrong. It's not a privilege to do business. It's a right. Beyond that, there are only 2 states with higher sales tax than Arizona. Anybody know what they are?
California and New York.
Illinois and New York. Very close. New York is getting ready to outlaw 25-ounce soft drinks. I don't think we want to follow them down that road. But people in this race, we've got 2 people in this race that do think we want to follow them down that road. On the Democrat side, a guy named Juan Mendez, you can go to his webpage and look this up. He says that we can no longer afford a limited government. I think he's got that exactly backwards. We need a limited government because when we have a limited government, we have free people. Once the government starts to become unlimited, we become limited. And that is not what we need in this state. It's not what we need in this nation. We have an opportunity to lead the nation in freedom and not follow New York down the path of restricting what you can drink and what you can eat and where you can wear whatever. A little bit more about myself. Growing up, I became an Eagle Scout. I was involved in my community. I have a 2-year-old daughter. My mom's the oldest of 10. My wife's the oldest of 11. Today, I found out, good news, Arizona Chamber of Commerce has endorsed my campaign. They're made up of a bunch of corporations, both large and small, including APS, SRP, Southwest Gas, Bank of America, and the list goes on. There's like, I don't know, 80 companies involved. I'll be meeting with Andrew Tobin tomorrow. As was pointed out, he is the Speaker of the House, and he believes that this district is a battleground district, but it's a winnable district. Now, I've been told that I'm out of time, so I won't go on, but I want to fight for you. My name is Jason Youn. I'm pro-business and pro-freedom. Thank you.
I hope you don't mind if I break protocol by standing up. I'm Buckley Merrill. Just like Ray Speakman, I was actually born in Cottonwood, Arizona. And basically, I moved from there to here in Mesa. And basically, for the past 10 years, I've been here. Now, about my history, how many of you have attended multi-day political conferences? Ever? How many of you have attended multi-day political conferences? A few? Okay, not many. Well, I attended my very first multi-day political conference when I was 13 years old. So basically from when I was 13 till I was 23, basically I knew and understand the principles of politics, and basically those principles were outlined in like the 5,000-year league, that kind of thing. So I am very much in harmony with like Earl Taylor and the National Center for Constitutional Studies. Now for the past 10 years, from 23 until I just had my 34th birthday just recently, but for the past 10 years I've been actively trying to teach those principles to other people. Just like Raymond mentioned, we can turn LD26 around where it will be a conservative place. It's one of those where we need to create converts to the Constitution, and that's sort of where I want to pull this fight. Because we will, if, like previously mentioned, if we bring it back to the Constitution, ultimately that is the solution. But I guess a little bit more about my history before I go on. Basically, well, you can probably tell by my hair and by my teeth and by my goatee, I don't look like the normal politician, right? Okay, but basically, ultimately, what sets me apart is not my appearance, but it's ultimately the message, and the message ultimately is the Constitution. And of course, I mentioned attending the different things for the National Center for Constitutional Studies, and how many of you have heard Shane Krauser? Oh, brilliant, more of you have heard of, brilliant, because ultimately that is how we will make our nation a much better place, through that kind of stuff. And I guess Other than that, what else do you want to know about me? I'm exciting and all of that kind of stuff. But again, going back to my appearance, that kind of stuff, I haven't been to all of these different colleges and fancy that kind of stuff. But my education is the exact same kind of education that George Washington had. My education is the exact same kind of education that Benjamin Franklin had. My education has been the exact same kind of education as Thomas Edison. Basically, it's not necessarily been found in a classroom. I have found my mentors, and that ultimately is one of the things that will set me apart from any candidate across the entire state, because I've not been indoctrinated by people like ASU and that kind of stuff. So I'm different, therefore I will make a difference.
All right, thanks for the introductions. Okay, question number 1. Now these are for 1-minute responses again. Are you in favor of 1070, SB 1070? And if so, how will you help make it more effective? And if not, why not?
Yes, I am in favor of 1070. Actually, I did a blog about this just recently. One of the things in the Declaration of Independence, where is it? Okay, one of the grievances, he has refused, talking about King George, he has refused for a long time after such disillusions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, and the statement remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. Basically, if the federal government is not taking responsibility, well, we need to. And so, yes, I am in favor of SB 1070.
I too am in favor of it. I'm very disappointed in our national government because they have not secured our borders, and it is their job. And it's going to be very interesting in the next few weeks to see what the Supreme Court does with this bill. I think they will uphold it because it does what they're not doing for us, and that is securing our borders, and they simply have to be, and if we have to do it, so be it.
I'm also in favor of 1070. It was amazing to watch when it went through the rippling effect that it had throughout the nation. And many people think that Arizona kind of has a black eye because of it, and I truly believe it's our shining eye because we have to secure the borders and we have to be able to defend our borders from without and within. And
I believe in the actual bill of SB 1070. What I have a problem with is our ability to explain it to the rest of society. We made some mistakes in explaining it, and it was very misunderstood, partly because the media is against us, especially when it comes to issues like this. We have a need to protect people from identity theft. We have a need to protect immigrants from coyotes who will smuggle and kidnap them. And SB 1070 does that, and we didn't have to invent it. We just copied federal law. So yeah, I'm in favor of SB 1070, but I stress that we need politicians who can do a better job of explaining what these bills do, because if we let the press explain what SB 1070 does, we will all look very bad, and the bill will be twisted in a way that they will lie to you about what it says. So I'm in favor of what it says. We need politicians that can explain what it says to the press.
Okay, here's another question. How would you have voted on HR 4133? It's a U.S. bill. And what would you offer your constituents as reasoning for your vote? Okay, I think here, Matt, would you like to?
HR 4133, I don't know the exact name of it, I believe it's the Israeli Defense Enhancement Act, has a provision within it that allows for unlimited aid to Israel without any pretext. It was voted for.
Let me give you the mic.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Matt. HR 4133 is, I don't know the exact nomenclature, but I believe it's called the Israeli Defense Enhancement Act. It was voted for on last week. Only 3 dissenting congressmen voted against it, and there's a provision in there that allows for the unlimited aid to Israel without any pretext.
We'll start the other side this time.
Somebody beside me.
Well, I'm really glad that you asked this question because it gives me the opportunity to point out something extremely important. We talked a little bit about the Constitution and what it does, and it provides for separate powers of the government. And we're running for a state office, which means that I have the luxury of saying that I haven't researched this bill. I don't know a lot about it, but it's not a state bill, it's a federal bill. And when it comes to providing money to foreign countries, sometimes people need help, sometimes they don't. I haven't read this bill and I can't tell you whether or not it's a good one. I do say that we need good relationships with our allies, especially the ones close to home, like Mexico and Canada. We've had a long-standing relationship of a good relationship with Israel, and I hope that continues. But until I read this bill, I can't have a stance on it.
Yeah, the first time I've heard of the bill also, our relationship, again, when it comes from the Constitution, I don't know exactly how to answer it because, again, I don't understand the law, the bill exactly, but we do need to maintain relationships. But from what I understand, as a government, you know, the funds that we give should be authorized by the people, that we're not a charity state. And so we've got to be very careful where those funds are spent and how they're allocated. But I don't think that as really a country or a state that we can just give funds away, you know, without pretext at all. There has to be that control there. But
I too am not familiar with this bill, and I believe that our relationship with Israel is very important, however. But I promise you, if you come to PC meetings and you ask me how I voted on a state bill, I will be able to tell you that I read it, and I will be able to explain to you why I voted the way I did.
Fantastic. Well, I guess I don't need to know or understand the bill because it doesn't fall into the state's jurisdiction. But here is the one principle that actually does apply. Should the government be able to pick favorites? That ultimately is summing up the question. And my personal opinion, no, the government should not pick favorites. Now the thing is, does Israel need help? Absolutely. They are standing all by their lonesome in that hostile field. Now it's one of those things that, as far as I'm concerned, the government shouldn't hand up money over to them, but we, the people, we can create private funds, just like, you know, send this money to the starving kids in Africa, but half of it goes to the bad government anyway. If we created funds where those funds would go directly to the Israelis, that would be okay. But should the government do that? I don't think so.
Good morning, everyone. What role does the Second Amendment play in the Mexican cartel violence?
well, if we truly live by the Second Amendment, we would all be armed and they wouldn't have anything to stand on because we could defend ourselves. So I appreciate that question being asked me because that was a very simple one to answer, because I do believe that if anything, we should be empowered to everybody have a gun and everybody to have that right to carry it and defend themselves, and we would cut our crime significantly.
Well, I believe in everybody's right to carry a gun too, because I have mine concealed carry. I got it right after a pit bull attacked me and my little dog one day, and I decided if I had a gun with me, I probably could kill that pit bull. So I too believe that I have a little problem with guns on campus because I'm a school board member, and so I do have some reservations there. But other than that, I think we could very well return to the Wild West, right? And we may have to if the cartels don't.
One of my favorite t-shirts, I'm obviously not wearing it now. One of my favorite t-shirts says, "I carry a gun because a cop is too heavy." But basically, as it deals with the cartels and that kind of stuff, ultimately, ultimately, self-preservation is an inalienable right. That is a right given to each individual. No one can take that away from you, anywhere. And ultimately, that is the best way to protect ourselves from the cartels in Mexico, that kind of thing. And just really quickly, I would be afraid to allow guns on campus if there's a whole bunch of hippies there, but if there's a whole bunch of NRA members there, I'd be more than happy to have guns on campus.
But where are you going to find NRA members at ASU, please? They're too liberal.
I love this question because I used to live in Mexico. Love that country, and I'm a gun owner. And I can tell you this for sure. If they had a Second Amendment, their cartels wouldn't have the power they have today. I know a lot of people in Mexico who, they do have some gun ownership. You can have a .22 rifle for hunting, which when the cartels have a Barrett 50 caliber or M16, that's not going to cut it. I know a lot of people that went to jail for gun crimes in Mexico for just having a gun to defend themselves. Thank God that we're not at that point yet in America, in this state. But in a lot of states, those rights are disappearing. And if we don't protect them here, they're going to disappear here too. We've got to protect our Second Amendment right. And if we can work on it, let's get it down there in Mexico too, so they can clean up their own state.
We'll start with Mary Lou. What is more dangerous to our liberty, the Patriot Act or Obamacare, and why?
Then I say that Obamacare is the most dangerous to us because the Patriot Act was put in by George W. Bush, wasn't it? And he was No, Obamacare I think is very dangerous for us. When you tell people that they have to have health insurance and that they're going to be fined if they don't have it, and when you tell companies that small businesses that are struggling to insure their employees, that they have to furnish insurance to so women can have contraceptives, is that what it said? And they don't believe in that. I believe it's wrong. I think we all know that in this country we need to have health care looked at, but we need a comprehensive health care plan made by a Republican president and a Republican Congress, one that will be friendly to us and not endanger us. So maybe the Patriot Act is dangerous. I don't know. It infringes upon our rights, but I think Obamacare probably infringes more upon our rights than it does.
Well, both of them are not good. Now, I will say that Obamacare is more dangerous because as long as there's NRA members saying "over my dead body," the Patriot Act can be, in one way, shape, or form, be fended off. But with Obamacare, well, one of the blogs that I did where he has erected a multitude of offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out our substance. That point blank is one of the offenses that King George was doing with the Quartering Act, but instead of this time, it's the multitude of officers and offices created for the healthcare system, and basically that, right now, Medicaid will bankrupt our country. Our country will be destroyed because of debt. We are servants, we are slaves because of debt, and Obamacare is just grinding it incredibly down, and that is the most immediate threat that I see.
Well said, Buckley. Our founding fathers actually played these mind games a lot. What's more dangerous, what's more important? And one word summed that up, and it was fought about between Benjamin Franklin and our other founding fathers. Is it inalienable or unalienable? They went on for about 6 hours with this, and they came to the conclusion that it's certain inalienable rights that cannot be removed from us. But the government's trying to remove these rights with both Obamacare and with the NDAA and with the Patriot Act and with, I mean, you name it. This list goes on. This is not just a two-issue thing. This is a multi-issue thing. They can't be separated. They all are about undermining and attacking our freedom, and we've got to stop them. The Patriot Act does some pretty popular things in some people's mind. It helps give us freedom. There's a quote that I want everybody to remember, and I bet you already know it. I probably don't even need to say it. Those who would sacrifice freedom for liberty deserve neither. And so many in our country are beginning to go down that road where they deserve neither. And I say that this room is where it stops. We deserve liberty, and that's the way it is. No, you can't. If you fall off a cliff and then a boulder hits you on the head, what killed you? One is not more dangerous than the other. They are both attacking our fundamental right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and property. They are both attacking our rights that are given to us by virtue of our humanity, by our Creator. You know, which of the 10 Commandments is more offensive to God? You know, you can't separate these things. One is not more dangerous than the other. They're all dangerous, and they all attack our freedom and our liberty.
I don't know what I could add to that, but again, to bring it back down to us here in the state, as we go to serve in our positions in the House, we have got to be able to make those stands here also, to not only, you know, because we disagree with them there, and we've got to protect our freedoms, but we've got to here at the state draw that line to where they cannot. And I was reading the bill this morning regarding the Obamacare that was passed in our last legislature. I don't remember the name of it, but we need to do more of that to stand up against the government, the federal government, saying, no, this is where we're drawing the line. We are not going to let this happen here, because as states, we have the rights, not the federal government. And so we've got to be able to draw that line here in the state. We are the West. We don't have daylight savings time. You know? We make the stand, and that's what we've got to do with things like this, is say, no, you know, that we are not going to go there. Because I too, being a small business owner, it absolutely scares the living daylights out of me to think of what Obamacare will do to us. It will destroy us if we don't do something about it.
Do you feel the teachers union is responsible for the decline of public education, and why? If not, who is responsible? Who can we hold accountable?
This is actually pretty cool because I actually get to set the tone, hopefully, for the rest of the comments. Basically, I guess just really quick, how many people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki? Oh, marvelous. Basically, in there, the entire education system, as we have it now, basically was established for the industrial age, and we sort of passed the industrial age quite a while ago. So I would not say that it's the union specifically as far as bringing down education. It's just the education industry as a whole. The world has changed, but that system hasn't. As far as who we can hold accountable, ultimately it is us. Bottom line, it's our fault if we're not getting ahead. It's our fault if we're not accomplishing stuff. It's our fault if we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So ultimately the responsibility is ours, but it's not just, I will admit, the teachers union is driving, unions have outlived their usefulness. Again, they were designed for the industrial age, and we are not in that anymore.
I bet I'm the only member up here. I should have brought my picture of me carrying my picket sign in 1973 in front of the Scottsdale School that said another crazy Scottsdale Spring, because I was a member of the union at that time. And I was a member of the union at that time because when a young teacher walks in the door, they say, oh, you must join the teachers union because if something happens, you need us to back you up. Well, I fell for that. And I think that week, my husband and I, it was 1973, I think we lost about $1,000 that week that we didn't cross the picket line. And we had in the district office all the bigwigs from Washington, D.C. directing the strike and saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. and you've got to stay out of the classroom. I cried all the way to school every morning that I was out on strike. I couldn't stand it, and so that's my experience with the teachers' unions. I definitely believe that they've been down one of the big parts of the downfall of education. How many of you went to see Looking for Superman? Oh, you should all see that movie, and you will see what they've done in New York City. When the credits rolled, I sat with tears in my eyes. I cried. I couldn't leave the theater because I thought, what are we doing to the kids of our nation? So yes, I believe the unions are to blame.
I don't know, not well acquainted with the union, but this I do know, that on a state level, we are responsible for the education of our children. I have 8 children, 14 grandchildren, and all of my children have gone through the public schools. And they've made it through okay. They're wonderful children. But we do have to protect the education of our children and have got to raise the quality of the teaching. There's other states that have a significantly lower budget than we have for their education system, and does a much better job. We've got to find out in the system where all the deficiencies are, where all the corruption is, and pull that out, bring our budgets into control with it, and increase the education that our children get, the quality of the education in the Arizona state.
So I'm very lucky. My mother's a public school teacher and my wife is a charter school teacher. And Arizona is a leader in charter schools. How many of you guys know about the massive success we've had with them? Good, some people. The real number, the magic number, 24%. Since the inception of charter schools in Arizona, our general graduation rate in this state is up 24%. And guess what? None of those teachers at the charter schools are working for the teachers' union. People have a right to unionize, but they don't have a right to take away an opportunity for a great future from our children. And that's why I'm for school choice. My child will probably go to a charter school if we win this election. My opponent, Juan Mendez, wants to shut down charter schools. Go to his webpage. His quote is, "We need to fix education through cooperation and not choice." Does this sound like the America you want? It's not the America I want. That's right. That's right. And charter school teachers have the ability to teach in their classroom. This has always frustrated me, and this is a direct result of the union coming up right here, because the unions lobby politicians to make laws, and politicians go along with it because the unions are the so-called experts. We send our teachers to school to get a master's degree in education. And then they go into the classroom and they're not allowed to make their choices. They're not allowed to teach because the unions have pushed through a bunch of laws through our politicians that don't know any better that prevents teachers from teaching. Who's the expert? The masters in education or the politician? I think we all know the answer to that question. Beyond that, when a teacher messes up, you know what it takes to fire a teacher? They basically have to go to court. The principal that wanted to fire them takes them to this tribunal, and all these people are sitting there, they got to defend their case. That's the public schools. Charter schools and private schools, when a teacher is no good, they're gone. Last thing, we need to be able to fail students. When a student doesn't make the grade, maybe they can get a certificate of completion. Maybe there's a lot of approaches to this, but if they don't earn a diploma, they don't get a diploma. This is something that I think the unions have had an effect on. We need to stop that. So, blaming the unions, there's a lot of blame to go around, but I can definitely show causality. There's a big cause there.
I need to say that last year our legislators did do some good things for education. You no longer have tenure, and so it is easier to get rid of, it is very much easier to get rid of a teacher. And up to, from 30 to 50% of the teacher's evaluation is going to be on her test scores from now on, and that's the same way with administrators. So we do have some good public schools. We have some great public schools, and I happen to be on the school board of one of those districts.
I have 2 sound bites, if you don't mind. I forgot to do one of them, but one of the things that I actually think I want to push as far as education is concerned is eliminating the mandatory attendance laws. Basically, if we can get the failing students out, then all of the good students can actually carry forward that kind of stuff. Those people pulling back, basically, they can go on and do other things and they can actually earn a living, and that's how they can learn, as opposed to holding down the rest of the classroom. And the other thing, this is the other soundbite, there is a tremendous difference between schooling and education. I am very much for education.
We'll start with Jason next. Do you feel that Arizona taxpayers should be held responsible for the education or health care of the children of anyone who can be successful at illegally entering our state? And what is your reasoning?
So I think this question is asking if you want taxpayers to pay for the education and healthcare of illegal immigrants, right? No. I certainly believe that illegal immigrants need an education, and I know some of them, I've met them, they didn't find out that they were illegal until they were 18, 19 years old. But to provide this opportunity for people to come here and steal is wrong. To say that they can't get an education or health care is also wrong, because we do need to approach this with compassion, and we need an approach that allows people to better their lives. My family came here long before I was born, long before my grandparents were born, but they were immigrants too. So there is a need for a compassionate approach, but this DREAM Act where an illegal immigrant can come over here and pay an in-state tuition to go to college, well, at least let's start by saying they can pay an out-of-state tuition. At least let's move it that far. It is a tough issue because we're dealing with people, we're dealing with human rights, and we're dealing with people that want to better their lives. But we're also dealing with people that are coming here illegally.
We cannot afford to pay for all their health care and their education. But again, I'm amazed that at our government how we can track an egg that may have salmonella in it from a chicken somewhere in the far eastern corners of some state or some country. And they can pinpoint it and know where it's coming from. And we, being a border state, carry quite a burden with the illegal immigrants and the social ramifications that they bring. But I know that there's a way that we can create a system where these people can come here and be productive, pay taxes, pay for their education, instead of freeloading on the tax-paying citizens of Arizona. There is a way, and we have to explore it because we cannot afford it. It will again ruin us. Right now, we're $5.5 billion is being used for access. I wish I had the figure on how much of that was for the illegal aliens, but a significant portion of that is because we have to provide it. But I know that as a state, we can come up with some type of a system to track these individuals and help them to become productive people, not citizens, but productive people that are allowed to work here, to pay taxes, and to pay for their health care, and to pay for what they're doing, because they're coming here and working just like we work. And they need to, but we just need to find a system to make them to where they can be productive people, not freeloading on our system.
Well, this is a really tough one for me because I taught school for too many years in South Scottsdale where I had those children in my classrooms. And I hate to see children punished for something that their parents do. Their parents brought them here. And the parents should have an easy path to citizenship. We make it so difficult for them to become citizens that they give up. So I think that's one thing that we really need to work on, is make it easy for them to become citizens if they want to become citizens. And if they don't want to become citizens, obviously they should go back to Mexico. But I hate for the children to be punished. And when those children come and enroll in their schools, the schools cannot ask them whether they're legal or not. And so we have those kids in our classroom, and as I said, I do feel compassion for them because it's not really their fault. But I also know that we as a state cannot afford to pay all those expenses. I was just appalled a couple of years ago when it came to light that in St. Louis, people on the Mexican side of the border were bringing their kids to the American border, and they were being picked up by buses and taken to American schools. That got stopped, I think, pretty quickly, but I'm sure it's not the only place that it happens. So we just need to know that the kids shouldn't be punished.
Well, I think with both of those, whether it's the education or the healthcare, basically it's helping other people, right? That's the category that it fits into. Well, point blank, there's justice and there's mercy. Now, the government can only do one of those. Because if the government is merciful to someone, well, guess what? It's picking favorites. There's no possible way that it can be just. So it's not, so those two things, justice and mercy, can't work in the same place at the same time. So the solution is the government deals justly with everybody, and mercy is actually done by the people. It goes back to the same issue with Israel. We the people can help our friends. We individuals can help neighbors, and if there's someone who has medical need, we can rescue them, or that kind of stuff on an individual level. I like picking favorites. I am not going to kiss a smoker ever. But when the government picks favorites, that's a totally different ballgame.
Do you support the construction of the light rail through Tempe and downtown Mesa in spite of the huge deficit our cities and state of Arizona have? Why or why not?
It's a complicated question, but my simple answer to it is no. Again, government has no need to get involved in where private sector should be. The light rail will have to be subsidized by government money because it won't support itself, and so it shouldn't be built. It needs to be self-supporting, and it can't be. And if it can't be self-supporting and be a private sector, it shouldn't be done.
Well, after being in Washington, D.C. last week and enjoying their wonderful subway system and seeing how well it worked, I can't understand why we can't make it work that well here. But then I do understand, because when someone uses the light rail and goes from Tempe to downtown Phoenix, they can get on the light rail and not even buy a ticket. And that happens. I know many, many people who just ride it every day and never buy a ticket. And so it should pay for itself, and it could pay for itself if it were policed and had somebody standing there taking the tickets instead of letting people get on and ride free. So, and I think it would save a lot of our environment if we would not use the car so much and use the light rail, but until it can pay for itself. Like you said, it's there. We already have it, but you don't want it expanded, right? Okay. Thank you.
Can I go last? I am actually going to be a little controversial on that. Okay. Well, okay. I'll be controversial. Sorry if I set you off your tone or anything. Basically, if anyone's done the math about the light rail, only 18 cents out of every dollar actually come from people paying for it. So in other words, it is a big, huge, gigantic, incredibly massive wealth redistribution scheme, whatever. But point blank, this is where I'm going to get kind of controversial. How many people have heard about Agenda 21? Oh, marvelous. A wonderful little group over here. Now here's the thing. Auschwitz never would have happened if there were trains. If everybody had their own private transportation, Auschwitz never would have happened.
Well, I want my 18 cents.
I remember when our joint cities decided to get together and build this light rail, and the Arizona State Legislature unfortunately didn't have a lot to do with it, otherwise I can guarantee you it would have looked a lot different. There were 4 options available to the voters, and the voters chose the slowest and most expensive and shortest route. This probably happened because the current light rail had the best signs. I remember the signs, they looked really, really good. And a lot of times voters don't always look at the complete issue and they think, oh, light rail, and this one's got great signs and great commercials. That's why we have the current one. It is terrible how much it costs and how slow it is. I was on it the other day and a bicyclist passed me. It sounds like a joke, but it's true. A good rail system can be good for this city, but it has to be, just as Ray said, it has to be sustainable, and we have to show financial viability for it. There are plans that work, and there are plans that we have that don't work. So, while I love the concept, I love trains, I had a model railroad as a kid, unless we can do it without spending taxpayer money, I don't see how it's a wise decision.
Okay, we'll start with Mary Lou next. As a public official, you will be required to take an oath to uphold and preserve the Constitution of the United States. When is the last time you undertook a serious study of the Constitution, and can you identify 1 or 2 areas where you feel the Constitution is being violated today?
I've taken that oath of office at least 3 times, raised my hand and swore to uphold. I think my Republican women, I'm sorry now, Sue, that I didn't go to that meeting, and Margaret, that I didn't go to that meeting yesterday afternoon, because it's been a long time since I taught 8th grade social studies and we studied the Constitution. And so I really feel awkward in not knowing how to answer that question, because I can't think of any place right now that perhaps their constitutional rights are being violated, except with Obamacare, and I know they're being violated there. And after listening to these guys, probably the Patriot Act too. So our rights as Americans are being taken away from us, and they are given to us by the Constitution.
I will be more than happy to protect and defend the Constitution. It is one of the absolute best things ever. Okay, now as far as where it's being violated, where shall I start? How long do you guys have? Okay. I know I might be stealing someone's answer, but okay, Article 1, Section 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of the Senate and House of Representatives. Point blank, that is one of the most violated sections anywhere, and it's the very first thing in there. Basically, when you're dealing with executive orders and when you're dealing with, say for example, Roe versus Wade, which it's an interpretation of an interpretation, but it is law. That's where 9 people decided law across the entire country. And guess what? Nobody voted for those 9 people. Okay, so, I mean, that's the very, very first thing. And we could go all the way to, like, say, for example, the 10th Amendment, where, you know, the states should decide what happens if it's not in the Constitution, that kind of stuff. So there's a whole bunch of a lot of stuff. What was the other part of the question? Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Oh, I have not taken the public oath of office, but that is one thing that I do very much look forward to, because I've already been defending the Constitution, but this time I'll probably cry when I take the oath and that kind of stuff.
I'm in the middle of studying it right now because, and it's been a phenomenal experience for me. I think one of the things that has stood out in my mind is, as I have been studying, is an early portrayal of how the balance of government should be. And it shows the scale between tyranny and anarchy, with a 3-headed eagle sitting in the middle of it with its wings spread. And as I've looked at that and thought about that imagery, it's an incredible imagery for me, because it really does depict where government should be and what they should be doing. There are 3 heads to that eagle. There's the legislative that has 2 eyes that has to see equal. It has a executive and a judicial head to it. They all come from the same neck, being supported. But there's the balance there, and then it has 2 wings that are spread. One is compassion, and the other is resources. And I think truly as the Constitution, it has to be viewed that way, that it truly does, that all the power comes from the people. And it is really truly across the board in the Constitution where the powers are being violated on every side. And we have to be able to look at every single bill that comes across our desk and view it. Do I even have the right to even make this decision? Do I have the power of the people to really even vote on this? Has to be the very first question, has to be balanced off of the Constitution and the rights that are given to us therein. When it comes to the oath, I have never taken the oath either. I think you will be the only one here. But I do too look forward to that wonderful opportunity to be able to defend the Constitution and to stand for the rights of the people in every way.
I like Buckley's comment where he said, "Where do I begin?" You know, the First Amendment, Mary Lou talked about with Obamacare. Second Amendment has been under attack forever. Article 1, Section 8 outlines the powers of the legislative branch. And Article 10 says that those powers that aren't there should go to us, and they aren't. They're just being taken up by the legislative branch. Some ways are legal, some ways are not. Article 2 is about the president, and the president has two kinds of powers, and only two: express powers and implied powers. And implied powers are a very dangerous thing because the president can say, well, the Constitution kind of should have sort of mentioned that, and then they just go ahead and do it. 10th Amendment says that implied powers should belong to us, and we need to remember that. But it's also important to remember that there's another Constitution that whoever wins here is about to swear an oath to, and that is the Arizona State Constitution. Something I think we need to talk about is that the Arizona State Constitution says that all public educational institutions like ASU, U of A, and NAU need to be as free as possible. Now, of course, that means there's room for in-state residents to pay tuition, but as free as possible. Does that mean $8,000 a year, like $8,600 a year for an in-state resident, not including parking or your dorm or your books or your food, just for your 24 credit hours? I think that's a little bit high, especially when you can go down the street and get a private education for the same price. We have problems with our Arizona Constitution. That's very misunderstood. So we have two constitutions that we need to swear an oath to. I'm ready to do that. The last time I did that was just a few minutes ago when I pledged allegiance to the United States, to the flag, and to the republic for which it stands. That is an oath. I didn't take it before a judge. I didn't take it before a governor or a president. I didn't take it before a general. I took it before everybody in this room, and I'll continue to take it every single time we meet because I believe in this nation.
Okay, one more question, the last from the paper. And we'll start with Buckley. If Arizona is short of revenue and they're balancing the budget, what strategy would you use to address it? Would you raise taxes, use bonds, cut programs, etc.? What would you do?
Marvelous. How many of you have heard about Dave Ramsey and the debt snowball? Basically, as far as state budget, what I would do, basically you line everything up and all of the smallest stuff, well, that's what you cut first, and you just keep on cutting and cutting and cutting. So I would very much prefer cutting programs so you don't have to pay for them, and that's how you'll be able to pay for the necessary stuff, the things that actually do protect life, liberty, property.
Well, I have some good news. Year-to-date revenues are up 7.7% from last year. April's general fund revenues totaled $934.6 million. So I think our guys did quite a good job last year of doing a lot of cutting and spending the money wisely, and now we are coming out ahead this year. So I'm hoping when we get there that we can keep these tax revenues coming in and perhaps add back some money to some of the programs that have been cut. But obviously, if we hit a place and we don't have enough money, we have to cut spending. We can't raise taxes.
You know, I've been a small business owner in the state here for 15 years. And that is something that you just have to do. If the money doesn't come in, you can't spend it. Or it has ramifications that you don't want to deal with. And it's the same on the state level. It's no different. If we don't have it, we can't spend it. And so we have to cut somewhere. We can go out and make, again, just as a small business owner, if I need more revenue, I have to go out and I have to find it. And there's ways to do that on the government level also, to be able to increase jobs, to increase the economy, to have those doors opened up for businesses to create more jobs, which will generate more revenue. And so there's ways to help generate it, but you cannot spend what you do not have. It's just cannot do it.
I love that this question says, if Arizona is running low on money. We are running low on money. You will hear from people that we have a surplus, especially the press. I'd like to remind everybody that we do not own our state capitol building. We're tenants. We don't have a surplus. I'd like to remind everybody that our educational system needs funding. Along with that, we need to stimulate business, which means we're going to have to lower taxes while creating a better educational system. This sounds difficult to do, but I'm going to tell you a couple places where we're wasting some money. How many of you guys have seen billboards with a 1-800 number for you to go dial to get welfare? If you need welfare that bad, is a billboard really going to encourage you to take that next step? My heart goes out to people who need help. I think the government should be there for those people who really need it. But we don't need to be paying money to Turner Broadcasting System to advertise for welfare on a billboard. We don't have a surplus. We do not have a surplus. We have a Capitol building to buy back. Don't forget that. It's also important to remember that our economy in Arizona is growing because of the major cuts that we took last year. Anybody who owns a house, congratulations, you made 11% in 3 months, and that's because our politicians embraced something that has become a dirty word. Don't let it be a dirty word, austerity. Austerity is when you have to shrink the size of the government in order for the people to remain free. We need to do that. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. The fact that people are involved means things are turning around. I have a buddy working at the voter registration office, and he's telling me that about 8 out of 10 voter registration cards that are coming in that are switching parties are switching to the Republican Party. And that means we're getting the message out. We're doing a good job, but we can do a better job. My district, Esquire, is probably only going to fill 2 seats this time around. We have 9. I know a lot of people are in a similar place. Help get your neighbors out there, because at the end of the day, this is not about me. I love my daughter. She's the most amazing thing. She's a lot more fun to hang out with than going to a lot of meetings. But I'm afraid that if I don't do this, she's not going to have a country left. This is not about me. It's all about my daughter, her generation. We need a government that provides people the opportunity to be free, the right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. To pursue life, liberty, and happiness, not to be given all of these things by the government. The government does not give us these things as if they're gifts, they're ours. They belong to who we are by virtue of our humanity. We need to remember that, and we need to not sacrifice our freedom for a little bit of security. We need to embrace a nation where we are allowed to go out, make a living, provide for our families. That's what it's all about.
I'd like to read a quote here. This is by a French jurist called Alexis de Tocqueville in a book that he wrote called Democracy in America. He says, "I sought for the greatness and genius of America in her lakes," if I can read here, excuse me. Greatness and the genius of America in her harbors and in her ample rivers. It was not there. In her fertile fields and in her boundless prairies, it was not there. In her rich mines and her world commerce, it was not there. Not until I went to the churches of America and heard her pulpits aflame with righteousness did I understand the spirit of her genius and power. America is great because she is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. I want to first thank those who helped me get to this point. 3 weeks ago, I had no idea that I would be sitting here. I'm not a politician. I've never dreamed of being a politician. I never have had a desire to be a politician. But I do have a desire to preserve our Constitution. I have a desire to protect what my children have deserve to have. And so my promise to you is that I will do my best as I go to the state representatives.
I guess we're supposed to stand up for this one. Well, like Ray, 3 weeks ago, I didn't have any idea that I was going to be standing here tonight either. And believe me, when you find out 10 days before signatures are due, you get out and you work very hard. And I would like to also say that I have determined that I'm going to run my race private. I had said before that I was going to run clean, but I'm not. I'm going to raise my own funds. And so I need your help. Like everybody else here, we need to put up yard signs, we need to get the word out, we need to have fundraisers, we need to have meet and greets, we need to win in this Democratic district. And it is very Democratic, believe me, and we need to put the very best people that we can on the ballot in November so that we can take the 2 seats. So if you have any questions, please call me. My husband has a sheet with all of my information on it, and I'd like for you to take that and give me a call. I want to hear from you. I'm like Ray, I'm a very good listener. I learned a long time ago that the best way to solve problems is to listen to other people. And so, thank you again for coming tonight.
Well, everything that I planned on saying, I just totally completely forgot. But ultimately, one of the things that has been mentioned, sort of an overall theme, and Jason in his closing comments remarked about this. Ultimately, here in this room, this is what will make the difference. One of the reasons that I actually decided to get in the race, I was actually, I think, one of the first people to put their paperwork in out of everybody in the state. Because I filed my paperwork like back in January, that kind of thing. But the reason I decided is because I was actually in several of the different Tea Parties listening to the different candidates come up and say, that's not even close to the Constitution, and well, my answer is better than his, and well, I'm certainly more charismatic than that guy. But it's one of those things that I knew I could make a better difference than those guys could, especially when it comes to protecting life, liberty, property. And that's sort of my rally cry, that's sort of my war chant, as it were. Because I will protect your life, liberty, property better than anybody else. And that's one way that I'm actually going to, there's only one libertarian candidate. Well, they'll vote for that. Libertarians will vote for that guy and me because I'll protect your life, liberty, property better than anybody else. And Democrats will vote for me because, well, they like to live and they like to be frivolous in their liberty, so I'll protect their life, liberty, property better than anybody else. So basically, I'm running my campaign because I'm going to be everybody's second favorite. So you'll vote for your favorite, and then you'll vote for me, because I'll protect your life, liberty, property better than anybody else. Thank you.